All right, is it gone?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It was
For
the
now.
AC. It was the AC. Okay.
Maybe I
All
could
right.
construct this episode in like a
In reverse
Chop
order.
it off. Chop it into a million different pieces, start at the end, and then go back and forward. And
like, try to
that'd be
figure this
fun.
one out, listeners.
All
That'd be
right.
fun.
Josh, were you finished? Back in the days when, 20s and you'd road trip and we're 7 to 8 people sharing a hotel room meant for, 4 at the most. There's, somebody sleep in the bathtub.
I literally laying there last night. I was like, what the hell am I going to answer with this? And that finally popped into my head, and it's like, that's really the only thing I feel like I have. And it's not even that exciting, but it's just what I would say is my earliest memory.
Slate, I don't know what's happening. There's some crazy,
Yeah, you've got a spaceship going on behind you.
Yeah. It's like going in and out.
I wonder if it's the air conditioning. Hold on.
This question was hard.
Have you ever slept in a bathtub?
In the morning, I'm making waffles.
Whoever said orange was the new pink was seriously disturbed.
And when it comes to huge openings, a lot of people think of me.
Just call me a fuck ass.
Brilliant. Scary. I get nasty when I'm horny.
Welcome to Not Another 2001 Movie Podcast, the show exploring movies released during the first year of a chaotic century. Today, we're going to kill John G. and make that bastard pay. I'm Slate.
I'm Allison.
I'm Josh.
And I'm obviously not where I'm usually located. Much like our main character of today's film, my background is blurry, empty, and somewhat looks artificial. I'm house sitting for my sister, guys, so bear with me. I know the background's kind of weird, but yeah. So speaking of the movie that we're getting into, okay, Lenny's, tell me about a memory that you have that is so distant and vague that it doesn't almost feel like a memory. It feels more like a dream than a memory to you.
I'll start off if you don't mind. So I mentioned Slate. Me and Slate had lunch earlier, or dinner, or whatever the brunch equivalent of between
Leonard Dunch
earlier today, and I mentioned that this question, I struggled with it for a while. I had a really hard time trying to think of something, and then last night I was going to sleep and thinking about it some more, and it finally dawned on me what the only real answer I have to this question is or at least the only valid answer. I have this really strong, like very vivid memory of being a kid, indeterminate age. I don't know what age I was. Probably anywhere between 2 and maybe 6. It's kind of like that time frame of laying in the floor of our first house that we lived in and watching CMT. Or not CMT. It was whatever was before. There was GMC. Was there something like GAC, Great American Country?
Yeah.
Or something like that. It was, like, this is like for people listening, the country music equivalents of MTV. And I just remember, I don't even remember the song. I just remember seeing cowboys and like whatever, and it's not a really descriptive thing that I'm saying here, but that's the earliest thing in my life that I can remember. And I feel like I was like 3 or 4 years old, really, really small. It's not the most exciting memory, but it is something that I do remember. And I feel like it is probably my earliest thing that I remember from my life, even though I couldn't tell you again if I was 3 or 6. I definitely wasn't any older than probably 6. And honestly, probably wasn't any older than 4 or 5. The only other thing, it's in the same house. I remember my mom reading to us a lot as a kid, and one of the only things I remember though is sitting on a couch in that same house and us reading Goosebumps books, and then me and my sister, who is about 1.5 years younger than me, looking down the hallway and just being scared off our asses of nothing. You know, I guess whatever she just read to us, we thought was sitting down the hallway, but it was that would have been I might have been 5 or so around that time because those books I think started coming out when I was about 5 or 6. So fun stuff.
All right. Well, mine are depressing.
Oh, okay.
Yay!
Because I feel like when someone really close to me has died, and there's something about like what you're going through in that moment that like you remember it, but it sort of feels like it was all a dream and didn't happen.
Okay.
But probably the worst one was my sister's boyfriend in high school died by suicide.
Mm.
And I remember being in the school, she was in the pageant. This is a whole convoluted story. Someone came and told her like right after the pageant we were at the school, and she's still like halfway dressed up, and she just like lost it. And I sat in the hallway and just like stared at the wall and kept counting the bricks like over and over and over because we were there for like hours, and people just kind of forgot about me honestly because they're so focused on her and what's going on. And that's just such a weird memory. And I'm like, yeah, I just sit there and count the bricks over and over for like 3 hours. I guess I did. I don't think I dreamed that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have another one, or is that because I thought you said you had?
I mean, I could go through all of the deaths that I've experienced, but
No.
I'm just going to leave it at that one.
Save them for later.
That's
I will tell you on a slightly lighter note. This is not totally relevant to your question, but sort of related. When my mom and I went to Peru, it was an overnight flight. So it's like 9-10 hours overnight. And, you know, it's hard to sleep on planes, but I bought these special pillows. So we're like in the middle of the night, there's severe turbulence. Like one of those where like the plane drops.
Count me out.
I'd actually fallen asleep and the plane dropped and it woke me up and everybody was screaming. And I looked at the screen and I'm like, we're over the Gulf of Mexico. We're going to go down in the water. You know, and it was fine. But later,
Gulf of America.
Sorry. The Gulf of America. But then later on, we're telling other members of our tour group, we're like, oh yeah, there was this crazy turbulence. And I was like, yeah, I woke up and everybody was screaming. And my mom goes, you were screaming. I had no recollection of screaming, but apparently I did.
You're like Will Ferrell in Old School. Nobody panic! We got the
They threatened to turn the plane around because Alex was scared. Everybody.
We're gonna land this plane right now.
Yeah, in the Gulf of America.
It's gonna be a Captain Sully situation.
Oh man, that's amazing. Yeah. So Allison, much like you, mine involves a death too, but it's not necessarily the funeral or anything about the death. It's just the memory of my grandmother in general. My grandmother died when I was 7 years old, and she was only 55. It really defined the rest of my mother's life. And I remember like the impact that it had on my mother and everything. And I do remember my grandmother, but like the memory is so distant that like there's really only like one big memory that I have, but it does feel like a dream to me. And it's my grandmother lived in Florida, so we would go down to Florida and vacation and spend time with her. You know, when I was a kid, so 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, we're vacationing in Florida and staying with her. And back then, I was an early riser. Now I'm an early riser because I have to be, but I hate mornings. I'm not a morning person at all. Back then, I was the first one up. I'd get up at like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, just twiddling my thumbs, trying to find something to do. And my grandma would get up around the same time as me when we would stay with her. And so we would be the only two people awake in the house. And every morning she would make her a pot of coffee and she would pour her a mug and she would pour little 4 or 5-year-old me a mug of coffee. And I'm sure she mixed it with like just pure creamer and sugar because it was like light brown and sweet or whatever. And I never liked the taste of coffee before. Never liked the taste of coffee like after she died. I only drank coffee when I was drinking it with my grandmother. And we would sit down, drink coffee, and talk about like what we wanted to do for the day or what we were going to do for the day. And that's like the only like faintest memory that I really have of her. I don't have any other thing. And for me, it does feel more like a dream. And it's weird now in the sense that I was 7 when she passed away, and she was 55. And I have other small memories of like listening to Johnny Horton in her blue Chevy Cavalier in the back seat, and she bought me a Johnny Horton tape, and I can still sing every song of that too, of that tape, which is wild. But like for real though, I don't feel like I got to spend much time with her, and she does feel like almost a person that I somewhat made up. You know what I mean? And my daughter was 7 when my mom died, and my mom was only 65. So like now I hate that I feel like that my daughter is eventually going to feel how I feel about my grandma, about her grandma, which kind of sucks. But she did spend more time with my mom than I got to spend with my mom's mom, because my mom lived close to us. So hopefully she's got stronger memories. But yeah. So I can't really remember why I asked that question, but I know it's important. Hold on. Let me check the mirror and read this chest tattoo that I have. Aha, yes. Okay. So the reason why I asked this question is because today's movie is all about a man with a short-term memory loss disability that makes him feel like he's living a life that is almost a dream state. And he only knows what he just did because he either wrote himself a note on a napkin, took a Polaroid, or tattooed it on his body. That's right. Today's movie is Memento. So, don't answer the phone because you're no good at phones. Grab your camera.
We got to look people in the eye when we're talking.
You got to look them in the eye when you talk to them. Grab your camera and your pen, and let's see if we can hunt down the man who killed our wife. Again.
Do I know this guy? He seems to know me.
What the fuck?
Alrighty, guys. I selected this movie in our draft in the category Awesome Sauce, which is fictional drama / thriller. And I must say, it is awesome. It definitely belongs in the Awesome Sauce category. Memento is the first feature film written and directed by the legend Christopher Nolan. It's based off the short story that's written by Nolan's brother, Jonathan. That story is titled Memento Mori. And this movie stars Guy Pearce as Leonard, a.k.a. Lenny. Don't call him that. He doesn't like that. His wife called him that. But Lenny's wife was raped and murdered by a man named John G. And Leonard is out for revenge. All right, cool. Sounds ambiguous enough, right? Well, let's add into the equation that Lenny was a victim of the attack as well, and that resulted in him no longer being able to make new memories. He remembers everything from his life before the attack, but now, if he doesn't write it down, he will forget it only minutes or seconds later. This condition becomes the perfect avenue for how Nolan decides to tell this story. It hops from moment to moment, and you're not really sure whether this movie's coming or going. He does it so effectively, though, that it keeps you interested and invested enough for the big payoff at the end. Helping, quote unquote, helping Leonard on his never-ending quest to hunt down John G. is his friend, don't believe his lies, Teddy. And Teddy is played by Joe Pantoliano. That's a mouthful. And I don't know what she is. And neither does Lenny, honestly. Anyways, her name is Natalie. She's lost someone too. She'll help Lenny out of pity. Natalie is played by Carrie-Anne Moss. Those are really the 3 main characters of this movie that take up 95% of the story. So we'll mostly stick to them. But this movie is an absolute contender for the most liked film of 2001. It's got to be up there with some of the other favorites that we've already talked about or will talk about, because it does sit at 93% critic and 90% or 94% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. It's an 8.4 on IMDb. And Letterboxd has it sitting at 4.2 out of 5 stars with over 1.9 million ratings. So definitely been viewed
Well
a time
watched.
Or two. Yeah. It's also worth noting that the National Board of Review of Motion Pictures ranked Memento amongst its top 10 movies for the year of 2001. And Nolan also won Screenwriter of the Year for this film in the American Film Institute Awards. So, the budget for Memento was $9 million, and it brought in roughly $40 million globally. $25 million of that was from the domestic box office, which is pretty impressive for a movie that was only released in 531 theaters nationwide. Total.
That's wild. That is
Yes.
so few.
Yeah. Those numbers are according to Box Office Mojo. So, yeah, I mean, 531 theaters is not a lot.
That's nothing.
So, no. Not even close. Like most, I would say roughly 25% of the market, like most of the other major pictures are seeing, upwards of 2,000,
Yeah.
2,500. Like,
Yeah, even at that time. It was,
yeah. So, I mean, if you think about it, if you have, say, 5 theaters in a 30-mile radius of you at this time, maybe one of them is showing Memento. So that's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, like the Kentucky, like where we live, like, in Lexington, like Kentucky would have probably been the only place showing it. I bet at the when it aired, which is interesting because they do that now. They're kind of like a repertory theater. They get more of the art house top stuff, but they also get first run, like things like Backrooms is playing right now at the time of recording. But yeah, it's weird to think that this, just because of I know you're going to get to this, the weight that this movie is taking on is so.
No, for sure. Absolutely. Memento was first seen at the Venice Film Festival in September of 2000, but it is technically a 2001 movie according to Josh's rules that he makes up as he goes along. They're like the points that don't matter and whose line is it anyway. Because
it's like my friend's husband, when he saw the list, he was like, okay, so just so you know, Memento is technically a year 2000 movie because blah, blah, blah. And I was like, we're playing fast and loose with the rules here. Just like, you gotta let it go.
Memento was so interesting. It was the one that was it's been the most aggravating movie to look up during this project, because it half the time comes up as 2000, and I understand that, like the festival release was 2000, but it's the actual release was
released
March of
in
2001,
theaters in March of 2001. Yes, correct. So it saw its wide release. And that's what Josh decided when we first did the draft before .com for Murder came up.
Right.
was that we're going based off when it hit theaters, not festivals. So it is a 2001 movie. So that's what we're going to go with.
And that's the Oscars. And to be clear, also, that's the Oscars in which it participated, was the ones for the 2001 movie.
So in the 2002 Oscars is what you're saying?
Yeah, the 2002 Oscars, yep.
Gotcha. Yeah, so if the Academy does it, then yeah, I mean, if only
we'll appreciate them. We'll appreciate them when they work for us.
Right. So, but this is one of those movies that grew legs with a cult following years after its release. I'm curious, like, when you guys first heard about this movie, or when you first found out about this movie, like when you first watched it, because for me, like, I had never heard of this movie until I had seen Inception, and I'd watched some other Nolan films, and I remember thinking, like, after watching Inception, like, dude, Christopher Nolan is like top notch right now. He's at the top of his game. And talking to other, film junkies like myself about how much I loved, like, what Nolan was doing and stuff. And I came across one of them that was telling me, like, dude, have you seen Memento? And I was like, no, what's that? And he started pitching, the whole premise of the movie to me. And he was like, yeah, it's Nolan's first real, feature length film. You ought to check it out. And so, I mean, obviously the movie had been out for quite a long time by the time I had seen it. So just curious, like, when do you guys remember, like, finding out about Memento and seeking it out?
Well, for me, it was assigned to me in my film criticism class, which was the fall of
Cool.
2002, and it was the most recent movie on that list. And I hadn't heard of it at that point, but I was like, you're watching movies from like made in the 40s, and we kind of went in chronological order from what I remember. So the Memento was the last one that we watched, and I remember just kind of being blown away.
Yeah.
by it. Like, wow, I can't believe that I hadn't heard about this and that this wasn't more popular.
I was. Sorry, go on, Slate.
No, I was just going to compare it to Wind River for me. Like, Wind River is another one of those. It's more modern, obviously, but it's a Taylor Sheridan movie, and it's one of those films that really got its legs at Sundance. And if you talk to people who love Taylor Sheridan projects, a lot of them haven't seen Wind River or know much about Wind River, but it's like, if you have seen it, you love it. And it's like the first thing that I always recommend when I'm talking to somebody who enjoys, Yellowstone or the Sicario movies or anything Taylor Sheridan's really been a part of, is like, dude, you have to check out Wind River. And this film reminds me a lot of that because it is a festival movie. I think it won Best Picture at Sundance the year it was released, and just has those legs to it, right? So, but go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I was. So this was the. I know we're going to talk about the movie proper in a second. So but in the lead up to this, I'd mentioned that I wasn't sure if I'd seen this or not because I knew so much about it. I didn't know the particulars, but I kind of knew about the structure and some of the funky things it does in terms of how it pans out. That I felt like I'd seen it, but I hadn't. So this was my first time watching it. But I was familiar with it's one of those, images, like not necessarily the poster, but I remember seeing this a lot in movie stores, like rental stores, going to the local place in our town that we grew up. And then later on, movie galleries and things like that. When I got a little older, I would see it a lot in rental stores before those went away, unfortunately. And I've owned the DVD, probably 10 years, I bet, at least, and just
never
hadn't
cracked
watched
it open.
and finally did it for the show, and it's I know we're going to talk about the movie here in a minute, and it's but that was my experience with it before this, was just being very aware of it, and probably it took me, it was probably a long time before I even realized, like, oh, it's a Christopher Nolan movie. I might not even known that until I was in college, probably, but it was something I was aware of. Actually, though, the first Nolan movie I was aware of, that I know for sure that I was aware of, was Insomnia, his next one after this, because I saw Robin Williams. I used to watch
Pacino and Robin Williams, and Robin Williams is playing
he's like a villain in that movie.
Straight man.
And he was on Jay Leno or Conan, one of those two, and I remember seeing him promoting it on that show. As it was, in the lead up to that movie coming out. So, I for some reason, I remember talking about distant memories. I don't know why I remember that, but I remember seeing Robin Williams talking about fucking Insomnia, and then following like his first movie, I wasn't aware of that until like literally 2 years ago. It was something that I wasn't aware of at all, and so
we'll definitely get into following a little bit too, because it's an interesting flick, for sure, and I do want to talk about it. But I think it's safe to say, Josh, that this is probably one of those movies that you had in mind when you started talking about doing this podcast, that you were like, I am doing a 2001 podcast because it's a great year for movies, and this is one of the ones that I haven't seen that I want to, right? So,
definitely. And I think it's, we'll talk about Nolan a lot, but it's also... it wasn't his first movie, really, but it's his first movie that
it's his
matters.
first feature-length film. I mean,
following
is an
hour.
Feature
length is like 45 minutes.
Wait, this movie's only... But, all right. Well, I mean...
But I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Film.
Like, this is the first movie that anybody associates.
If he was an artist, like a musician, if he was like a musician... Say he's Wiz Khalifa, right? When we were in college, Wiz Khalifa had his mixtapes, and he had Deal or No Deal and Cabin Fever, and so he's drawing Cushion Orange Juice, and they're like, okay, following was his mixtape, and Memento was his album that first debuted. Like
Yeah.
it's
Well,
Rolling
was
Papers.
was his EP.
It's his Rolling Papers.
I think that's fair. I think he probably would even say that because the way he made that movie is so interesting too. If you read about it a little bit following it, so
Okay, I'm interested in that because I did not do.
it's just
research.
like really, it was shot incredibly cheaply on like 16 millimeter film, and really had to get real creative with how they shot it. And
Okay. Huh. But yeah, I think I picked this movie. I know I picked it in the draft. I think I ended up picking it with like my second or third pick. I want to say. I know I picked it fairly high because it was one that I was like, I need to take this before Allison or Josh does because it is probably the best movie
it
as
was
far
your
as
second
movies
pick.
go. It was my second pick. That's
It
what
was
I
your
thought.
second pick. It was the 6th overall pick in the draft.
Okay. Yeah. All right. See, I'm there for it.
It went after
I went
Atlantis.
Atlantis and once Training Day and Fast and Furious was off the board, I was like, oh shit, I gotta get Memento now.
Yeah, we had and then Princess Diaries and Zoolander taken by Allison before this movie. So
I'm good with that. That's a solid number 2 pick for me. I'll take it.
you got good value in the second round.
Yeah. I stretched for the first round, but I made up for it in the second. That's okay. That's my Mitchell Robinson pick.
An act of self-preservation for that pick.
It's what it was.
And then he turned around and drafted Exit Wounds immediately after this movie.
Exit Wounds was a good movie, Swordfish. Shut your mouth. Listen, I drafted for me, okay? I drafted
and that's all that matters.
All right. So yeah, going back to Memento, this movie, it may be one of the most acclaimed movies of all time as far as like film festival awards go. It won the Waldo Salt Screenwriting Award at Sundance. It was nominated for Best Original Picture or Best Original Screenplay. How is it not adapted if it's based off his brother's short story? That doesn't make sense.
That's an interesting
The short story
thing,
did not come out until after this movie.
Oh.
Apparently.
But it's still based off the short story. They even say it in the credits. So like it's adapted.
But I mean, maybe the rules for adapted are it has to be a work of art that's
Been
out in the published.
That's
Huh.
weird. That sounds
I
fishy.
hadn't even thought about that, but that's an interesting. Huh.
And maybe that's why it didn't win, right? It's nominated, but it doesn't win, and maybe that's why because it's a technicality, and people are like, like if
No,
you beat me.
because The Beautiful Mind was clearly the superior script.
Well, that would be adapted too, right?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
adapted, wasn't it?
Okay, yeah.
So what?
But
was,
this was
what won
this was
Best
nominated for original. Yeah, what did win for
Oh,
original
okay,
this year?
okay.
Hold on, you'd think I'd have all this shit memorized.
Yeah, Josh,
by
you
now
should know this.
with how much I've looked at this list.
Figure it out.
Our
I'm
best
gonna guess In the Bedroom.
.com for murder.
In the Bedroom would be a fine winner. I don't think it was In the Bedroom though. It was Ostrich Park. I remember that
Bro.
conversation now.
Really?
Because I was like, because you guys, you're like, is this better than Memento? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was not. Yeah, Memento totally should have won.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to retract that statement.
Yeah. Yeah, you only said it then because you hadn't seen Memento yet. Now you know. So, yeah, it was nominated for Best Original. Should have been nominated for Adapted, but whatever. Should have won Best Original since it was in the original over Gosford Park. But, the Oscars get it wrong 95% of the time. So, yeah. It was also nominated for Best Film Editing at the same year for the Academy Awards as well. Oh, and
How did it not win that?
yeah. What won it editing that year?
Black Hawk Down.
Oh, okay.
That's
fair. I can. That's okay. I mean, I probably would have put Memento in it, but politically, I can see why the Oscars went with Black Hawk Down. So, and also in 2017, the Library of Congress decided that this movie was culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant, and they selected it for preservation in the National Film Registry. So, it is officially known as one of the most important movies of its time and period, I guess you can say. So, but yeah, let's get into it. What did you guys think of Memento?
I wanted to.
Oh,
Oh, sorry. I did want to bring up more about the. I can't remember if we brought up the National Film Registry before. I think this is the first movie we've talked about, and I'd had this sort of in my mind. So Shrek, which we've, I guess we have talked about Shrek already, so we didn't bring it up then. Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, another understandable choice. Can you guys name the fourth movie from the year 2001? There's only four so far to date that was added to the registry. It's the most recent edition. It was added in 2024.
Is it a movie we have discussed yet?
It is not a movie we've discussed, and right now it is not in our mainline schedule to discuss, or even in I don't think it's even in bonus consideration.
Baby Boy.
Spy Kids.
Get the fuck out of here.
So
okay,
we'll have to dig into that and figure out why that's the case. So I remember reading about that when it got added, and then when we started to do this show, it was on my mind that Spy Kids is in this list of culturally important movies. I think it has to do with a little bit of the Antonio Banderas is part of the reason, and some of the way that story is kind of told. But yeah, we can talk about that more on our Spy Kids bonus episode coming who knows when.
No, what I was going to say, Slate, just to kind of tie into us talking about how this movie not win for editing. So one thing that surprised me is it was, critically beloved for the most part, but there are some pretty, Roger Ebert gave it a relatively good review, but I think he gave Shallow Hal a better review based on me watching them both this week. I was just like, what the fuck is happening? But a lot of critics, and him included, were basically like, this is a gimmick. This whole telling it out of order, forward, backward is a gimmick, and if you just look at the actual story, it's really not that interesting. It's not. It's doing anything.
Very interesting.
And I was like, I completely disagree with that. One and two. I think the whole point of being an artist is telling a story in a way that it hasn't been told before. And the fact that he does that, and he does it so well here. But I wonder if that was kind of in the minds of some people, this was cool, but this is just totally a gimmicky thing. So we're going to
I feel like it's a cheap thrill type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can see the gimmicky reaction. I can see that, especially just having seen this once and watching it for this show. I can understand that reaction, especially at the time. I would understand it less so now if somebody were reacting that way. I can understand it though at that point in time,
especially if you did only see it once. This is a movie that the more you watch it, the better it gets, right?
Yeah, I think even though I've only seen it the one time, I can see how that would absolutely be the case, because I was immediately afterwards kind of going back and sort of trying to connect some things from before, and
if you've only seen it once, Josh, when we get into talking more about things that I've highlighted in the movie, or if you click on that link that's in the show notes of all the little Easter eggs that you missed or whatever, it's gonna make you want to be like, oh shit, and watch it again for sure.
Oh yeah, no, I did want to watch it again, but I was too busy watching half this guy's rest of his filmography, and the problem after this is most of his movies are fucking 2.5 hours long, so you only get so much time in the day. You
got to carve out 2.5 hours for that artificial intelligence podcast.
That's right. Coming. Well, by the time you hear this one, it will have came.
Yeah.
Because nothing happens in order. This is actually the memento of podcasts.
For sure. Hey, nothing wrong with that though. Let's I guess we touched on it enough. Allison, I did, doing all the research and stuff, I meant to look at what Ebert had to say about this movie, and now I wish I had. I totally forgot, because I was looking at all the rankings and looking at the awards it won, and now I got to know what Ebert said. So, who's gonna pull it up? Should I pull it up?
Hold on, I'll grab it here.
Yeah, pull it up for me, Josh. I want to hear.
I remember seeing an excerpt from his review on Letterboxd and meant to go read the entire thing, and I didn't.
Didn't he die before Letterboxd?
Well, there's an account on Letterboxd that is just his old reviews. Somebody's taken all of his reviews and like added them to Letterboxd. Like it's
That's
pretty
wild.
Yeah, and it's got links to to his website.
He gave it an overall good review. I think he gave it 3 stars.
Yeah, it's 3 stars out of 4, and 4 is his highest.
Right.
So let's see.
He was, I don't know, some of his criticism. I was like, I don't agree with that.
Okay. Yeah. So our guy Rod said that Memento is a diabolical and absorbing experience in which Pearce doggedly?
Doggedly.
Yeah, doggedly plays a low-rent fugitive who patiently makes maps, jots notes, and explains over and over that he has to talk fast because in a few minutes he'll start forgetting the conversation. Okay. All right.
Well, he says in the paragraph previous, it's like, Nolan's device of telling a story backwards is simply that a device.
It does not reflect the way
it's for our
Nolan
entertainment.
thinks.
It may actually make the movie too clever for its own good. And
Gotcha.
He wasn't a fan of...
He does say, I've seen it twice. The first time I thought I'd need a second viewing to understand everything. The second time I found that greater understanding helped on the plot level, but didn't enrich the viewing experience.
Disagree.
I disagree with that. I do. So, okay. All right. Well, that's enough about what Roger thought.
It does make me wonder what he would have thought of Tenet. Because...
Oh, he would have hated Tenet, right?
Tenet is... sort of in this same vein, but not done nearly as well. And look, I found Tenet very entertaining, but I think it is hard to follow.
Well, I feel that way about Inception, which I did watch for the first time.
Did you watch it? I'm proud of you.
Leading up to this, and it's interesting. I did enjoy it, but I felt that way. I came away kind of thinking the way that, and I don't know, I don't remember if Ebert was still alive for Inception or not, but I felt that way a little bit watching that. Right after I finished it, I was like, I really think this is clever and love this whole setup, and it's a fun kind of heist movie, but it's also, I kind of walked out of it thinking it didn't stick the landing for me in a way that, like, and it wasn't because of how it ends, I don't mind that it's sort of open-ended or whatever. It was just like, I was like, wow, that was like a long way to get to where we got,
The problem with Inception is you kind of have to take it for what it is. If you try to over explain it like through the science and stuff, then it gets lost and boring. And stuff. But it's also one of those things that, like, you also probably know that the science will tell you that this isn't a possibility either. You just have to. It's like you're living in a mythical world and just taking it for what it is, kind of thing. Like it's Nolan's science, But I did love it. I think I love Inception because, one, I like Allison. Am a sucker.
It's got Tom Hardy.
Yeah, that's why. Just go your Tom
Hardy. Not Inception. I was talking about Interstellar. I'm sorry. I was talking about Interstellar the whole time. I was talking about Interstellar. Josh, are you talking about Inception?
Yeah, I'm talking about Inception.
I thought you were talking about Interstellar, bro. Jesus Christ.
And that movie also started with a quote from Plato, didn't it?
Yeah. I'm sorry. This is a.
You're talking about the science. I was like, dream science. Okay. Yeah.
I was going to say the reason why I love that movie is because like Allison, I'm a sucker for space, and like Matthew McConaughey gives an amazing performance, and you get a young Chalamet. Oh wait, this is not the movie Josh is talking about at all. I thought when you said I had watched it, for some reason, because I remember you saying you haven't seen Interstellar yet, and I was like, you gotta watch it.
I still haven't. I didn't get to Interstellar.
I thought that's what you said you'd watched. You'd never seen Inception before this?
Mm-mm.
Wow.
You
were like behind.
That's like Lion King for Allison, bro.
I have almost every one of his movies in my house, and this week is when I watched most of them for the first
Nolan
time.
week in the Moore household.
I really love Inception.
Inception is great.
Interstellar was one, like, I remember we went up to it's not a full IMAX, it's like a fake IMAX in Louisville to watch it. And I remember being like, okay, that was like pretty good, but the more times I've watched it, I've really grown to love Interstellar.
I love Interstellar.
I'm eager to watch it because I do think I would like it. Just from, again, kind of. I remember seeing the trailers for that and thinking, "Oh, this looks pretty dope." And I know we're spending a lot of time talking about like his other movies and not the movie that we're here to talk about, but I think that's kind of actually important for him in this movie because this. I mean, following also, but this is sort of. This really almost shows you the full hand of what he's about as a creative person in this movie is almost present the rest of his filmography. Even in the Batman movies, it's like there's a lot of that stuff here that's, you know, a little sleight of hand and trying to, you know, drop little things that keep you, you know, maybe not necessarily even keep you guessing, but kind of keep you in suspense of what's getting ready to happen next. And yeah, I think the gimmicky nature maybe of how the story is structured, I could see why someone might take fault with that. But I don't think it. I think the movie. I do think it's better for it because it feels weird. It seems like this would be a strange movie to watch if you were doing it like. I know that there's like a DVD extra on one of the DVDs releases where you can watch it in like the supposed chronological order, and I don't know that like. I guess it would make sense, but would it?
Just kind of
I don't know. The way the
ruins the whole
character
movie.
is kind of put together, it almost seems like
Part of the joy of doing it in this order is you're just like making all these realizations every time like it jumps backwards, and like initially I don't know, it's when the black and white when he's in the hotel room and he's kind of basically narrating the story. I mean, at least for me, it wasn't evident. I thought that was another flashback. I thought it just kept going back, and then you realize at some point in the story that part's moving forward.
yeah, it took me a minute. Like, even though I knew that, like, I knew one of these is like the past, but it took me a minute to figure out what was the past version. And I think it's interesting that or at least what I think the black and white is the present for most of the occasion, right? Like that. Am I misreading that? Because it seems and then it sort of kind of converges.
It's hard to explain that it would be the present, because really the movie starts with him taking the picture of, you know, Teddy's dead body. So like, there is no present really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's one of those things where he's on the phone with Teddy or the detective and explaining the whole Sammy Jenkins thing and all of that, and then at one point finally Teddy does come over, and then Dodd's in the closet, and you figure all that is going out. Nolan does give you hints during this movie about like where you are in time if you pay attention to the marks on Lenny's face and how faint or fresh they are, which is kind of cool, like the subtle details. But other things that I wanted to say, and then we can go straight into the movie finally, was one, that this movie does show a lot of similarities. I think it's why we talk about other Nolan films, because it shows a lot of similarities with them. It is clear from this movie and other Nolan films that, one, he loves a good black and white picture. He uses black and white in a lot of his films. Following was shot in all black and white. There's black and white a lot in Oppenheimer. Is Oppenheimer all in black and white?
Not
No,
all,
but it's
some of
yeah.
the flashback scenes,
Yeah.
like at the court.
So yeah,
whatever
so
it's called,
that's
black
it,
and
right.
white.
Yeah, exactly. And then not black and white, but as far as like the jumping of the timeline and talking about like where we are in time and kind of manipulating time. Of course, you have that in Interstellar and Inception, but also just the storytelling device of it and how things match up. Josh, I don't think you've seen this movie. Allison, I'm not sure if you have or not, but Dunkirk does almost the same thing. There are times
I've seen every Nolan movie except for Following.
Okay. So yeah, Dunkirk is one of those things where you think these things are happening at the exact same time, and then later in the movie they match up and it's a completely different time frame. It's kind of weird how he does it.
3 different stories that he's intercutting
Mhm.
in Dunkirk.
And you think they're happening like all chronologically until like it meshes up, and you're like, oh, that was not when I thought that was gonna happen, you know. So that's what this movie lays the groundwork for really how he does the rest of his films going forward. So, and I did want to say that this device of how they tell the story, I think works. And I think a movie that I saw recently in the last few years that I really love that takes a similar approach is Strange Darling. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but
I'm familiar with the title.
Yeah, Strange Darling. It was it's like some people would call it a horror movie. Some people would call it a psychological thriller. But it was a low budget movie that came out in 2023. I think it's a Neon picture as well. I don't remember exactly who produced it. I want to say it's Neon. If it wasn't Neon, it's like another one of those like low budget, independent type horror movie companies. But yeah, it's like an erotic thriller, psychological thriller. It stars Kyle Gallner and Willa Fitzgerald, and it's starts. I think it's like a 6-chapter story, and it starts in chapter 3, and then the next chapter is chapter 1, and then the next chapter I think is chapter 4 or 5, and like it just bounces kind of all over, and it tells you, hey, this is chapter 3.
It's like Kill Bill.
Yeah,
Kill Bill's told out in order too.
So I do appreciate that. But let's finally get into Memento. We're 49 minutes in. What did you guys think about this movie?
Let's talk about the casting first. So,
Okay.
Like,
fuck it.
Just to try to keep some organization to this. The casting is it's perfect.
Yeah,
Guy
absolutely.
Pearce is great. Joe
Pantoliano.
Pantoliano.
Yeah.
Let's just call him Joey Pants because
Joey P.
Pants.
Joey Pants.
Joey Pants.
He's fantastic.
He's got an epic
Carrie Ann
mustache.
Moss is great.
She's
awesome.
fantastic.
I mean, the 3 leads are just perfect.
Not only, but our guy who's from Sons of Anarchy, is it Mark Boone Jr.? Is that his name? That plays the hotel. I want to say it's Mark Boone Jr. Right? Yeah, Mark Boone Jr. Damn, I'm good. He plays Bert, the hotel office guy that's charging Lenny 2 rooms. He's in this movie as well, and I enjoy his performance even for the short cameo that he's in it.
But Guy Pearce has this intense but also pathetic kind of air to him.
Is
And
Lenny likable? He's charismatic, but is he likable?
I like him, I think.
Do you like him though because of his condition?
Or wait, were you talking Lenny? No, I'm sorry. I thought you said Teddy.
No, I
Lenny
like
is-
Teddy. Teddy's likable.
Lenny is.
Lenny!
Yeah.
Yeah.
I you can admire his resolve,
Mhm.
I think. But no, I don't think he's very likable.
But yet you're still rooting for him to kill John G, right? Like you want him to get justice for his wife, right? The whole movie, you're like, I hope he catches this guy and kills him, right?
See, I don't know for sure that I was because no, I mean obviously he's we are aware that he is got this mental illness. I mean I don't know if it's characterized as a mental illness like this amnesia though. I mean,
he just phrases it as a condition, so we'll just call it his
disorder.
condition.
Yeah, neurological disease, I guess, is probably the better way to describe it. And so for me, that automatically, as somebody watching it, it's hard for me to root for him necessarily, and that sounds bad, but it's because knowing that already compromises him as a protagonist in terms of like this person probably should never be trusted, especially with a gun.
He even says it. I don't think they let people like me carry guns.
I love that. That was such a good fucking line. And he's like, I hope not.
But yeah, when you're really starting to see how he lives and how quickly he forgets things, I'm like, is he? I don't think he's going after the right guy. I'm not completely sold that this is, a really moral mission he thinks he's doing something good, but because he's such an unreliable narrator, I was like, I don't think I can root for him to like hunt someone down and kill them, because I'm not so sure he's going to get the right guy.
Yeah. I mean, far be it for me to judge, but if you have to write everything you do down on napkins and tattoo it to yourself to remember, maybe you shouldn't be on a manhunt. I feel like
yeah, probably not. Okay.
But
yep.
I find it interesting that, so with the way, what's Carrie Ann Moss's character? Natalie. The way she's presented initially, because it's going in reverse, or the scenes with her going in reverse, you're like, oh, she seems like she's here to help. She's so nice. And then as you go along, like, she's
spits in his beer.
Yeah. Where she's yelling at him. And, you're a fucking freak, and
Jesus,
your wife was a whore. I can't remember what all she said, but she's trying to get him to react and slap her. But then, if you think about the actual chronological order, it's the opposite. So in real life, she started out being antagonistic because she realizes that he killed her boyfriend, right?
And he's in the car. He's driving his car, wearing his clothes, like
So the whole spitting in his beer, and then kind of getting close to him to figure out what's going on. But then I think she really does feel bad for him when she finally realizes like this guy's really messed up and he didn't do this. I guess
didn't even know
intentionally.
that. Yeah, didn't realize or didn't.
And when she, looks up the license plate, because she doesn't know Teddy, right? Don't they make some point about how they don't know each other?
Teddy is a cop that I think is investigating her, and
he's aware
Jimmy.
of her, like at least in terms of
he's aware of her, but I don't think she's aware of him. She's aware that there's a cop. Because remember, I think she says a cop came in here looking for you. And said that, because she says a cop came in looking for you, says you wouldn't know anything about who you are or what you did. So she does say that. So they've crossed paths, but she doesn't know the cop is Teddy and all that. Teddy knows everything about her, though. So then it's the fun dynamic.
At the end, before she parts, or chronologically, before she parts ways with him, she's like, I did you a favor and had my friend at the DMV look up this license plate. And I was like, did she know that this license plate was for the cop, and ergo be like, he's going to go kill that cop now and take care of my problem? Yeah. Or did she not know? And was like, I'm just doing this guy a favor because I feel bad for him.
Yeah, see, I don't think so, because I think that he wrote that number down himself when he, at the end of the movie, is like, you know what? You're going to be my next John G. You're now in the crosshairs, Teddy. And I think he just gave her that number, and she, you know what I mean?
But I mean, I think you could interpret it.
Yeah, for sure.
Possibly both ways, but.
Well, that's what I think. One thing that Nolan gets knocked on for a lot is how he writes women, and I don't know that it's unfair to call that out in his latter stuff. A lot of the. I was thinking about that a lot watching Inception, and I was like. And I know Elliot Page is now trans man, but Ellen Page at the time she was a female character. I don't even remember the character's name, Elliot's character's name in that movie. Ariadne, yes, I knew it was like I know it's unique, but I can't remember the name. So Ariadne's a woman in that movie, and she kind of just. There's nothing that matters. Like it's so weird. She's like an essential character, honestly, to the movie. Like she's in the movie a lot, but the character doesn't really matter. It's weird.
Kind of a plot. She's just a plot device. There's not really much to her character.
And then the wife character in that movie is kind of, more. There's some interesting stuff there, but kind of she's just sort of there to really service Leo's character. But I bring that up.
I was talking about the wife when you said that. I was not talking about.
Oh yeah.
My bad.
Slate.
If you knew everything I had going on in this house right now, I'm sure you hear 85% of it.
But I bring that up to say I actually think Natalie in this movie is phenomenally written. Like, I think she is an incredible character.
I think she's such an interesting character, and I love thinking about her motivations
and it's because of that nuance that, however, whichever order you're taking the story in, it changes so much, and it's I think in some ways she might be the best character in this movie. So I think that's, it's kind of like, if I were going to defend Nolan in terms of like the ride, like, like, oh, he hates, riding women or whatever, like I would point to this movie as like, well, like
he did it once.
He did it once.
Stop complaining, guys.
It was only his first movie. But you could, if you wanted to counteract that, you could say, yeah, but he also wrote her and she's also a vile piece of shit. Like,
that would be the
knock there.
Yeah, for sure.
But the fun thing about her is once you know her story in the movie, her reactions to everything, like when he pulls up in the Jaguar and she's taking the trash out, and like just her face and bewilderment, and you can see her processing like, holy shit, this guy just killed my boyfriend and he's driving his car, and fuck, he's wearing his clothes, and
also, why is he wearing his clothes?
I don't know.
That was unclear to me. It's why did he change?
Yeah, he's like, take your shirt and pants off. I don't want to get blood on him. Like, why? What? It was odd. It's just a Nolan choice there, I guess. But and then when he walks into the bar, she clearly thinks like he's there to kill her, right? You know what I mean? Like, because she's like, what? Like, she's just being combative, and she's like, what the fuck do you want? You don't walk in here asking me questions wearing those clothes, like, and he's not clocking what she's actually saying. So like that is very fun with her in the movie, and there's so many small fun little details in this movie, and I do want to touch on a few of them. Like one of them at the beginning of the movie, I love that the Polaroid is in reverse. Like he's shaking the Polaroid and it's fading out instead of fading in. It's telling you right then and there, this movie is going to be told, backwards, or like everything you need to know, you're not going to find out till the end, right? It's just a very subtle clue to how it's, going to play out timeline wise. And, we talked about Natalie seeing him in the reaction. Another thing is like, when I first watched the movie and Teddy's constantly trying to get, Leonard to get out of the car, give me the car. Let's not drive this car. Let's take my car. All of these different things, or the window's busted. I could go get that fixed for you. And he's at the tattoo shop. Let me pull it around back. All of these things. You're thinking, at least I was thinking, he's trying to hide the car because he murdered a guy and he's driving around in town in his car. Fuck that. No, he wants the key so he can pop the trunk for $200,000 that's in the trunk of that car. And it took me like till the fourth or fifth time to realize like it's not about hiding the car. He doesn't care about the car. He wants the money that's in the car.
Well, I'm sure he doesn't want anyone else to see the car who may have known that the money was in it.
Yes. Like yeah. That's probably true too.
I would assume that Natalie,
but Natalie, I don't know if she knows, because she doesn't ever wants to try to get in the car. And you would think once she realizes that Leonard has this condition and she knows what's going on, that she would also find a way to get the keys to the car. Especially like, he's wearing her shirt, so he gets out of his clothes. They sleep together. I don't know if they have sex or not.
He's still wearing his pants.
It's so weird.
So.
They were just.
How did he end up in her shirt?
He doesn't remember.
He doesn't remember which shirt his is. I guess he didn't write that down on the poster.
Yeah. But that's my point, is that she never wants to, like, you would think yes, she would know because she's the one that's helping broker the deals at the bar, right? But also, you would also think that she would want to get the $200,000, like. So he's clearly driving around not even realizing he's sitting on $200K, which is wild in itself too. Another fun, subtle thing about her, when she lifts up the newspaper or realtor paper, whatever it is that's on the table, there's another hint from Nolan about who she is. when she lifts up the paper, there's a rotten apple sitting under the paper. And it's like symbolizing that she's a rotten apple, like a bad person, which is kind of fun. They do that with Sammy Jenkins too. If you pay attention when he's telling Sammy Jenkins' story and Sammy's now in the nut house and the wife's dead, it flashes to like somebody walking in front of Sammy, and then it's Guy Pearce sitting there instead of Sammy, letting you know that that's Guy Pearce is actually Sammy, which is another fun thing. And then there was, and then there's one more thing that's a little fun. At one point, Lenny's, I think, standing outside the tattoo parlor, and it's a shot of his face, and in the background there's like a store and a wall with like graffiti on it, and on the wall is the Batman logo, which is like letting you know, hey, he's gonna make a Batman movie at some point, which is kind of cool too. Which I mean, I don't even think he had the rights to Batman Begins at this point, but it's just kind of a fun little Easter egg there too. But there is a clip if you're interested. It's about 20 minutes long. It goes through a lot of the different subtle hints and things that happen in this movie that you may or may not have caught. That is in the show notes. So if you want to see some things, and check that out too. But yeah.
I mean, everybody in this movie is taking advantage of him.
Yes.
In some form or fashion.
Yes, that is one of the things about this movie that is bleak in the sense that there's nobody generally trying to help him. I remember that was one of my issues with Jordan Peele's Get Out, was that there's not one single white person in the entire movie that is a good person. Like you think there's going to be one that's going to help. Daniel, is it Kaluuya? Yeah. You think is going to help him in the movie, and it just turns out every single white person in the movie is just a terrible person. And it's bleak. And like in this movie, everybody is using Leonard for their own benefit. Even Bert, the hotel manager, is charging him for 2 rooms.
Two rooms.
I remember when I was watching that I was like, man, this is, because I think that's the first time where somebody just explicitly just calls out like, "Oh, I am taking advantage of you." And
he's honest about it. It's kind of fun.
He's honest about it, and
he's not even mad. He's like, "Well, I appreciate you being honest." Like,
yeah, and it made me think about just like, because to me that's like, the movie isn't really even about the murder, like him, I don't even know if it's a spoiler, because like he killed his wife. Like, we haven't said that. Like he's the one who did this thing that he's trying to do.
There are people who interpret that differently.
I have a hard time seeing how you could.
I think the movie pretty clearly
Nolan has even
that Lenny is Sammy Jenkins and accidentally gave his wife too much insulin. But there were still people who believe that, the wife really was killed.
Yeah,
that's fine if they want to.
Yeah.
That's you can believe that, but it's hard to say that when Nolan has said himself that this movie is about the lies you tell yourself.
And that's what I was kind of,
and that's what Lenny is doing at this point. He is just hiding and covering up his own trauma that he murdered his wife, and is like trying to give his life a purpose and to make right for that by blaming somebody else and then killing them over and over again. And
Question: do we think his wife was attacked then? Because he says John G. raped and killed my wife.
Mm-hmm.
So
was
she? Is that what he's remembering? Like, because
I think the police report is real.
Face, yeah.
Like, I mean, the police report.
And then Lenny was like, I felt sorry for you. I was the detective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he was like, you're the one that removed 12 pages from it because you didn't want to actually know what really happened.
And that is what caused him to have this, neurological damage, was trying to intervene.
Yeah, so I do think the attack is real. I think that the amnesia and everything from that is real. And I think that, one day he woke up or whatever, and somebody broke the news to him. Your wife died, and this is how she died, or either that, or Teddy, if you will, felt terrible for him because he, every day probably would come and check on him and then have to break the news to him again. Hey, you killed your wife because she didn't believe you. And eventually was like, you know what? I can't tell him this anymore. I have to tell him that his wife was murdered. It's so much easier for him to be mad than for him to be upset. You know what I mean? It's odd.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, this movie, I like this. The version of this movie I did grow up with is 50 First Dates. And it's such a...
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird to say that.
Nice.
It is... but it's like, it is weird thinking about, like, just this experience. And because that's what the movie really is more about, like, the lies we tell ourselves and this obsession inside your own brain that you can't, like, there's seemingly no way. Well, I don't know. I guess there you could say maybe he can get past it, psychologically, because he has this, this whole dialogue about Sammy Jenkins being able to, or is it Jenkins? It's Jenkins. Right?
Jenkins.
About not responding to the conditioning, the re-education thing, and he says, well, Sammy couldn't do it, but I can, and he is, but he still can't. Like, there's still, like,
he's not reliable. He's not a reliable source for himself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. I think that's the interesting, I think even if you hated this movie, if you watched it and just really loathed everything about it for some reason, I still think it's very challenging in terms of just what it's trying to show you about the human experience and this guy that's trapped in his own mind in a way that's much better than A Beautiful Mind did it, in my opinion.
It definitely did better than A Beautiful Mind did.
It's less clean about it. Beautiful Mind is definitely a cleaner experience in terms of, and more straightforward, but this challenges you in a way to grapple with that. And I think it does a better job of grappling with that kind of mental instability than even A Beautiful Mind did. Like how it kind of plays out a lot of times, because people do take advantage of people that aren't well, and unfortunately that is something that people do and people experience and continue to experience over and over and over and over.
So another thing, I think Stephen Tobolowsky is also great as Sammy Jenkins, which I feel like he's frequently known for comedy, so it's interesting to see him pop up in this pretty serious role.
Apparently he had no lines. Apparently they were like, he was
just ad-libbing.
Yes, that everything that he says in the movie,
every time he touches the electrified triangle, he's like, "Son of a bitch!"
Test this, you fucking quack.
But even just he just has this face. There's something about his face. You're just like, oh, it's just this sweet old man, and his wife is just so he can remember it. I know we can make him remember. And watching him give her the insulin over and over with his like sweet face, he thinks he's taking care of her.
Oh man,
like,
as a diabetic, it was rough.
It's so hard to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as
the
a
other thing
diabetic.
is, do you think a version of him existed in real life? Or is this tale a completely made up tale of like the conditioning and everything?
So you're asking me if I think that Jonathan
did Leonard
Nolan
actually work with some guy named Sammy Jenkins that maybe had some sort of issue, and he's just conflated his story on top of that guy?
I do think Sammy Jenkins is a real, like, in whatever his world was, is somebody he's filling in that gap with.
Teddy says Sammy Jenkins didn't have a wife. So Sammy Jenkins is real, right? Because Teddy he was like, Sammy Jenkins didn't have a wife. Your wife was the diabetic, Leonard. So it's like he's mixing his story with Sammy's to
I wonder, I guess it maybe doesn't matter who he was, but it's like maybe it was a coworker, from his past, because I do believe he was an insurance adjuster or insurance, kind of fraud investigator.
Claims investigator, yeah.
And maybe it was somebody he that was investigating him at some point or something, for something, it could have been.
Mm-hmm. And I do think that Tobolowsky does a really good job with the facial recognition / unrecognition. Like he does have that like blankness about him.
Like, but every time he turns back to watch the TV, and you can just see in his face like he's forgotten.
The absolute hardest thing as an actor that Tobolowsky did in this movie is when he's opening the door and he's fake recognizing Leonard. So he actually doesn't know who Leonard is, but he's faking it so that Leonard believes him that he does know who he is. So he makes Leonard not feel uncomfortable because he doesn't want him to feel like I met this person and this person knows that I don't know them, right? That is the layer to that, like the multiple layers of that, and how Tobolowsky does it is just A1 professional acting right there. Like, because you get that in the vibe. Like, you can read that he maybe recognizes him, but probably doesn't. But it's like, it's so good. So good. I love that. Just that clip right there. So, anything else you guys want to discuss before we get to the special feature?
Do you want to talk about how diabolical Natalie is?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
She's, yelling at him and calling his wife a whore and basically goading him into attacking her.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, "You're not going to remember any of this. I'm going to walk out the door and then come right." And he's like, "Where's the pen? Where's the pen?" But she's taking all the
her
pens.
Sitting in the car, just staring
and just
at
sitting
him.
in, she was just sitting in the car.
It's
just
like one of the. It might be the creepiest thing in any one of the creepier things we've seen in a movie this year is her sitting in that car.
And then
it is
digging,
pure
digging.
evil.
Yeah, and something distracts him. I can't remember, and he's like, "Huh?"
I think she slams the door of the car hard enough.
That's
because he has a trigger when a mug goes down hard, or when the prostitute slams the bathroom door, like all of those things are kind of like his reset, if you will, and so it's like she's like, all right,
and then just walks right back in, and she's crying and bleeding, and it's a completely different person.
Her inflection too, when she's like, "Who, Leonard died?" Like, he beat the shit out of me. Like, it's really good.
Like, obvious, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like, Carrie-Anne Moss is killing it in this. It's a phenomenal performance. Like, just, like, because so much of it, like, I think the character is well written, but she's also, you have to have somebody who can swing those directions.
She has to be likable and vile at the same exact time. Like, because she is 100% pure evil when she was like, maybe we'll even be lovers. Like, just like, oh man, it's rough. And seeing him like go down that path once you know what's happening, you're like, oh man, that's where you do feel bad for Leonard, right? Like, he may not be the most likable guy. He probably was an asshole before the event happened that took his memory, and he is still somewhat an asshole, right? What?
And I do think, going back to the gimmick talk and maybe why some critics took issue with that at the time, I also think they probably, part of that's a response not even to the structure of the story, but what it does to you, because it does manipulate. Like, it is a manipulative movie by the nature of how it's decided to tell its story. And some people just don't respond well to that. Some people, like, when they recognize I'm being manipulated into feeling a certain way at this certain time, I'm not saying I kind of think that's part of the,
I understand that, but I think that I would have a negative reaction to it if it felt like I was being manipulated for a cheap reason, right?
Yeah.
But Leonard is being manipulated for multiple layered reasons, and that's what's causing the audience to be manipulated, because we're seeing everything through Leonard's eyes. So it doesn't feel like the director's like pulling a wool blanket over our eyes and being like, ta-da, at the very end. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're following him and he's being manipulated. So we're in turn also being manipulated. It doesn't feel cheap to me. It feels authentic.
The film earns that.
I think so too. I agree.
One of my pet peeves about movies, and like when you go to watch a movie or even a TV show, and they're doing something that is so obviously meant to make you cry.
Mhm.
Like a really manipulative way. I can't think of a good example off the top of my head.
Um,
It's just
Name like 3 different scenes in A Beautiful Mind.
sure. But when it's trying so hard to be saccharine and like these characters haven't earned this screenplay hasn't earned this. I don't feel anything for these characters. You're just trying, and I find that so manipulative, and I hate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, 100% agree with that.
Versus, you know, at the end when I watched Return of the King in the theater 7 times and sobbed multiple times throughout that movie. It earned every tear from me.
I will not be crying when I watch it. I promise. I might be crying that I have to watch
Well,
it.
you won't even be watching that one.
No, Return of the King was 2003.
Unless you want to.
No,
I'm gonna have to. We're gonna have to do special feature so I can talk about all 3 of those movies.
We could launch not another 2002 movie podcast with 2 towers and
no.
right after the finale, we
out.
just roll out in.
Count me out.
When Sam says, "I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you." Sorry, I'm getting off on a tangent.
Okay.
I wanted to bring up 2 other people before we proceed.
Okay, yeah, I had another question for you guys too, but I'll let you go ahead, Josh.
I just want to shout out Wally Foster. He was he's the cinematographer on this.
He did a lot of Nolan
He did
movies.
all of his movies up until the last one he did was the Dark Knight Rises, and then he started directing his own movies. But
he directed that god awful fuck. It was Johnny Depp who uploaded his brain into a computer.
Divergent, right? Is that what it was?
Transcendence.
Transcendence. Yeah.
Yeah, that movie's terrible.
He hasn't done much in the directing space. He's done more commercials since then. Actually, he's turned into that. So
making that money.
Yeah, getting paid. Obviously, and he won, best cinematography for Inception, which I think it's a nicely cinematographic movie. But I don't know what else was nominated that year. I'd be interested in seeing that. But great cinematography. And also, I mentioned off mic that I had a connection for this movie and Power Rangers. I'm so excited to share it with everybody. One of the producers on this movie was Team Todd. So I got to reading. I clicked on the Wikipedia thing for, what is Team Todd? Oh, Suzanne Todd is Team Todd. And she, amongst other things, she executive produced all 3 Austin Power movies. The Loaded Weapon one. That's not Lethal Weapon. That's like a parody of Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
G.I. Jane, Idle Hands, which is one of my favorite kind of like little horror comedies. And the first Power Rangers movie, she was the 3rd producer on that, along with the creators of the show, Saban and Shuki Levy. So, I did it. I connected Memento to Power Rangers. I'm
gonna connect it to Batman again because you could argue that this movie is in the same universe as Batman Begins because we've already established that Batman exists in this world because his logo is spray painted on the building behind Leonard, right? Did you know that Thomas Lennon, who plays the Doctor in this movie...
Yeah, I forgot. He shows up for like 5 seconds.
Yes. He is also the doctor that examines Bruce Wayne in The Dark Knight.
He's like...
I don't recommend you go hella skiing. So, could be the same doctor. Just saying.
Could be.
But no, the last thing that I wanted to touch on and then ask you guys is another thing that you notice is obviously when Teddy is picking Lenny up from the hotel, he's trying to actively avoid Bert. And when Lenny calls Teddy Detective Gamble or Officer Gamble, he like winces and like looks to hope and hear that Bert didn't hear that because he knows that I guess Bert knows him as Teddy and not Detective Gamble, right? So I thought that was interesting as well. Another thing that you catch. But my question is like is Teddy a bad guy? Do we like Teddy? He's likable, but do we like him as a person?
He's a crooked
I like
cop,
him.
right?
Yeah, he's a crooked cop.
He's a crooked cop who's taken advantage of.
It seems like
Lenny.
he's wiping out the scum, but using Leonard to do it for him.
Yeah, and to get a little money on this because he's like, we were going to split the money, bro.
He's created his own Batman. Really, is what he's done.
He really has.
Yeah.
But like,
or RoboCop actually might be the more apt kind of comparison.
Okay, for instance, though, like I do totally 100% believe him, and maybe I'm being naive, but I do believe him when he tells Leonard, like, I felt so bad for you that, like, I wanted to help you do this because it, you know, like, you were so sure of it. Okay, that's the weird thing, because now that I'm thinking about it, he's already told Leonard, you killed your wife. Like, you killed her. Because you're the diabetic, not Sammy. But then he later tells Leonard, I felt so bad for you that you were so certain you had to kill this John G guy because he killed your wife, that we killed the guy that got your wife. And maybe John G is still the actual guy who raped his wife.
Who raped her, yes, yeah.
And so, okay, all right. So, all right, fine. We tracked him down and did that. And so, like, I believe him 100% when he's telling him, like, I felt so bad for you that I wanted to help you. And then once I helped you, you didn't remember it. And it wasn't enough. And every day, but it's also like, you're the one that took the picture and you kept the picture. So you knew that he would forget. Like, you could have wrote on that picture right then and there to remind him, and you chose not to. It's an interesting, like, dilemma that we have with Teddy. Like, it's hard to, I don't know.
I kind of take it. I agree. I take it as he was being sincere and like, oh God, let's help this guy achieve some sort of revenge. And then when he realized he's still going, that was all for nothing. And I think then maybe he was like,
got this whole docket of bad dudes.
How can I work this to my advantage and sick him on other people?
Yeah, it is weird. Like, it would be interesting if, like, they were to show that the different John G's or Jimmy G's that they've killed, like, his relations for them and motives for why each one of them needed to be gone next. But also, like, how long and how far has this been going, and how many guys have they killed before, like,
yeah,
they're like, every single one of these guys, you're just dropping like flies. You had a case on, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And for a guy who's an undercover cop, he sure dresses like a fucking cop. Like, he's literally wearing the cop like jacket and the mustache, and he drives like a typical detective car. So,
it's so interesting that throughout the movie, every time he sees Teddy and he's got to pull out his little, folio of stuff, and he looks, he's like, okay, I do know him, and he flips it over and don't believe his lies. And you're kind of wondering the whole time, where did this come from? And you get it there at the very end, and you're like, oh man, Teddy just totally sealed his fate.
He sealed his own fate, which sucks, like, but it's like, when you take a thing and you start to do it for good, and you realize once you've done it that you can now use it for other purposes than the original purpose. Like, that's another thing about the lies you tell yourself, right? Like, Teddy was lying to himself to be like, I'm just doing this to help this guy. Eventually, it became more than that. I can get $200,000 off of this guy. Let's set up a drug deal and kill him. So,
I was trying to find that Batman Memento picture because I hadn't missed that, and I was trying to see it. So if you want another Batman Memento connection, very loosely, there's apparently as of 2024 or 2025, a Batman villain named Memento that's been introduced into the comics, who's rooted in, I think this is what he looks like. Oh, I texted it the wrong group chat. Well, that'll be curious for those guys when they see it. He's like a plague doctor type villain rooted in London. So
okay,
oh,
cool,
damn,
nice.
wearing a top hat.
Yeah.
Huh. I'm here for it.
I mean, and I kind of want to read these stories. They seem pretty. This villain, like reading about the villain a little bit, he seems creepy. So I'm into it.
Yeah, I might need to look into his stuff.
Very new character, apparently. So.
Okay.
Nothing to do with the movie, really, other than the shared
the name. Hey, it works. You know, Nolan might make a Batman versus Memento movie, right?
Well, this did.
Sure.
Doing this whole project did make me want to. This is probably for later, but it did make me want to, like, you know what? I'd be for all this, you know, talk about superhero movies and, you know, everybody member berries and whatnot. I'd be down for a fourth Nolan Batman movie if he wanted to bring back Bale and do something. If he had a really interesting story, I'd be down for it.
I'm good with the way he ended it, and
I am
Me
too.
we don't need a fourth one when we've got what may have been the best Batman movie as far as like the Batman character and being an actual detective, and Robert Pattinson. So
Yeah.
So no, we're good. I'd almost rather have James Gunn. Not really, but. All right, guys. So I decided, you know, we could have touched on the history of Nolan and where he's at now, but everybody knows like Nolan is a Mount Rushmore of his time period. Like he is one of, you know, the greatest directors of all time, regardless of what you think. Like he is a transcendent director. And so it felt like with this movie having the presence that it had and the accolades that it had and the film festival awards and everything and being a festival movie with the presence that this movie had amongst film festivals, I thought that this would be a good time for the special feature to be about the history of film festivals and kind of where they were back in 2001 versus where they are now and where they became from. We could honestly do a 3-hour-long podcast just on the history of film festivals in itself. So
Coming next week.
No.
Yeah, I'm hoping you're going to summarize these notes because
The notes are a little long. Yeah. I'm going to try to go as quickly as possible and summarize them as much. I wanted to really touch on Venice because it was the first film festival and it's a big one. So we're mainly going through the big five. So, but yeah, let's dive in. So, the Venice Film Festival is the oldest film festival in the world. It debuted in 1932. And basically, you know, during the 30s, the government of the Italian citizens were heavily interested in film, and of the money that Italians spent on cultural or sporting events, most of it went towards movies. So the majority of the films in 1932 that were being screened in Italy were American movies, which led the government involvement to the film industry and yearning to celebrate Italian culture in general. So that's where we got the Venice International Film Festival from. The festival opened on August 6th of 1932 with the debut screening for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So we created a film festival for Italian theater, but we're going to open with an American movie. Let's do that. But Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, though, that's pretty banger. So I'll give them that. No awards were given at the first festival, but you know the main award is the Golden Lion, and we'll get into the history of that in a second. But despite the success of the first festival, it did not return in 1933, and then in 1934, the festival was declared to be an annual event, and participation in the Venice Film Festival grew from 9 countries to 17, so it almost doubled. The Golden Lion Award is their award for Best Picture. It was established in 1949, but was absent from the festival from 69 to 79 due to a film titled, this is the English translation, Artists in the Big Top, Perplexed. That won the Golden Lion in 68. And it's a West German film that was written and directed by Alexander Kluge. The film's made in collage style, and it basically it follows along a failing circus owner who must decide whether her dream of owning a new style of circus is too optimistic. The whole movie is a symbolic representation of Kluge's own frustrations in trying to help stimulate the new German cinema, the movement for German films. The website says that the film festival's reasoning behind why the hiatus behind the Golden Lion is because the award still had a statute. Sorry, I'm struggling today. The awards still had a statute dating back to the fascist era and could not sidestep the general political climate. 68 produced a dramatic fracture with the past. So they basically blamed this movie and its political views on why they just don't want to throw the Golden Lion out there anymore.
Interesting.
Yes. So it was also West German's the West German selection for Best Foreign Language Film in the 41st Academy Awards, but it did not win the nomination, so it was not nominated for the Oscars that year. Probably because it was 1941 and from West Germany. I would be willing to guess. So yeah, the very first American film to win the Golden Lion outright and not tie. Apparently, there's a lot of ties when it comes to Best Picture at the Venice Film Festival. But the first film to ever win the Golden Lion that was an American-based movie stars two of our guys who were pretty big names in 2001, Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal. That's right. Ang Lee's Brokeback Mountain was the first ever to win for an American movie at the Venice Film Festival. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. Under the direction of Alberta Barbera, the festival has kind of established itself as an Oscars launching pad. They really increased the presence of American movies. So, Academy Award-winning films such as Gravity, Birdman, Spotlight, La La Land, Shape of Water, A Star is Born, The Favorite, Roma, Joker, Nomadland, Dune, The Whale, Poor Things, The Brutalist, and Frankenstein are all movies that have shown at the Venice Film Festival, has strong showings, either been nominated or won, Golden Bears or some awards at this showcase. And essentially, if they're, doing well at these festivals, they tend to do well at the Oscars as well. So that's Venice for you. Let's get into the Cannes Film Festival, which is in France, and is probably the destination festival for everybody. Like it's more of like the tourist place to go, right, in France. But it was founded in 1946, and it is considered the most prestigious festival in the world. The festival's creation is widely attributed to France's desire to compete with the Venice Film Festival. At the time,
we
that
want
was
one too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. At the time, they were the only international film festival, and France was like, you know what, we're going to do it, and we're going to put it in a city that people want to come visit, because they felt that the Venice Film Festival had shown a fascist bias, which they pretty much declared in 1968, right? So, in 1937, Benito Mussolini had meddled to ensure that the French pacifist film La Grande Illusion would not win. And because of that, in 1938, and then the last straw was in 1938 when Mussolini and Adolf Hitler overruled the jury's decisions and awarded the Coppola Mussolini, which is the Mussolini Cup, for best film to the Italian war film Luciano Serra, Pilot. So, which was also produced under the supervision of Mussolini's son.
You don't say.
Yeah. So, needless to say, the French were not very thrilled with this and said, fuck this, we'll make our own festival. So, outraged by the decision, the French, British, and American jury members withdrew from the festival with the intention of not returning. And this encouraged the French to come up with the Cannes Film Festival. So, a cool fact about Cannes is in 2025, they had 45% of their selections were directed by women, which was their highest percentage yet. It broke the record. And I thought that would be fun to share, considering that, in the year 2001, we don't really have a whole lot of women directing movies.
Talked about that a little bit ago.
Yeah. It's a conversation we had earlier. So it's a fun thing to see, like, that they're getting their comeuppance now, I guess.
On a related note, Vulture has an entire article about how this year's Cannes Film Festival was kind of a dud. And it made the point that like last year was this incredibly strong like slate of movies and there was so much hype and, you know, people were so excited, and this year people were just everything seemed to be very disappointing. And I'm sending you the article if you want to look at it.
Yeah, please do. I do remember listening to the Big Picture last year and really coming out with like 10 to 15 movies that they loved when they saw them at Cannes or talked about them from the Cannes Festival. I don't know if they went last year, but they did go this year. And they definitely had like a few, but it didn't seem like they were as excited. But the ones, it sounded like the ones that stood out at Cannes really stood out. And then the other ones were like, they're good. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
I'm looking real quick just at the 2001, just the films that were in competition that year at Cannes.
Shrek.
And Shrek was one of them. And I was going to say Shrek. And then the only other one that was directed by a woman is, it's called Replay. We haven't talked about it at all. It didn't go into the Oscars or anything, by Catherine Corsini. So, you know, that's like, 20 movies, roughly 25 movies that year, and only 2 were directed by us. So, yeah, they're just in Cannes, where you would,
right.
In theory, there'd be more kind of an environment where that would be more welcome. Even then, it was pretty exclusive to men at the time.
Okay. And so we'll move to the third big film festival, the Berlin International Film Festival, which was founded in 1951. The opening film for this was none other than Alfred Hitchcock's Rebecca. So opening solid with Hitchcock is always nice as well. So the winners of the inaugural awards in 1951 were determined by a West German panel. And there were 5 winners of the Golden Bear, divided by categories and genres. Cinderella won the Golden Bear for a music film, and it also won the Audience Award. In our year, 2001, German film critic Dieter Koslik took over as the director of the Berlin Film Festival and decided to push away from Hollywood and put more emphasis on German and international films instead.
I'm glad you included that, because I was like, this is the one, I'd heard of the Golden Bear, but I wasn't really, I don't recall even hearing about this festival a lot, outside of maybe what wins the Golden Bear or something most years.
Yeah, so, and I think that is because they really have pushed more towards an international, so, I mean, it'll probably be the pictures that are nominated for Oscars in international film will probably have been showcased at this festival, is what I would assume.
Makes sense.
Yeah. The next one, the fourth one, we'll go with TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival, which is, I think, a really fun one every year as well. Honestly, Toronto and Sundance are probably my 2 favorites as far as like the movies that they choose and pick to show. So the Toronto International Film Festival, aka TIFF, was founded in 1976. Originally, it was known as the Toronto Festival of Festivals. They would collect the best films from other film festivals around the world and would show them to eager audiences in downtown Toronto. This was the first year. There was 35,000 film goers, and they watched 127 films from 30 different countries, presented in 10 programs. The TIFF's People's Choice Award, and this is why I think I like this festival too, is because their best picture is the People's Choice Award, which is decided solely from the audience on what movie they think is the best movie out of the movies that they saw at the festival. So it's just, hey, come see these movies and you tell us what you think. We're not going to have a board, a panel. There's no politics. It's just the people coming in, sitting down, having the theater experience, and what do they think is the best movie. So that's pretty cool. I do like that. This award's another big tell for who's going to be a legit contender come Oscar time. Past recipients of this award include Oscar-winning films such as Charlottes of Fire, Life is Beautiful, American.
Chariots of Fire.
Charlotte's
Charlotte's
of
of Fire.
God
Oh,
dang, I can't read.
Charlotte's of Fire is in the adults only section.
That's I was gonna say that's in the back section of Blockbuster.
I'm sorry, guys. Chariots of Fire. I wrote the wrong thing on the back of my Polaroid. Chariots of Fire, Life is Beautiful, American Beauty, the 2000/2001-ish movie Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon that we're not covering. Slumdog Millionaire, which won Best Picture at the Oscars in 2009. For 2008, The King's Speech, Silver Linings Playbook, 12 Years a Slave, Imitation Game, La La Land, 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, one of my all-time favorites. Green Book, also another Best Picture winner. Jojo Rabbit, Nomadland, Belfast, and American Fiction. So a lot of these movies, typically if they win it, they're a serious contender come Oscar time. In 2001, Perspective Canada, the program had focused on... Perspective Canada, the program that had focused on Canadian films since 1984 was replaced by 2 programs, which became Canada First, which is a forum for Canadian filmmakers presenting their first feature-length movie featuring 8 to 15 films. So essentially, this happened in 2001, started in 2001, they pivoted to basically create these columns. So the first one is Canadian directors and filmmakers that it's their first movie they've ever done. So it's like new up-and-comers. We want to highlight you and select you for this. And then the second is Shortcuts Canada, which is all 30 to 40-minute short Canadian films only. So last but not least, let's talk about my favorite, which is the Sundance Film Festival, which started as the Sundance Film Institute, which was actually founded by Robert Redford in 1981, which is pretty wild. Like, I did not know that. So that was kind of cool. In 85, it assumed the management of the U.S. Film Festival due to financial problems. And, since then has ultimately become what we know as the Sundance Film Festival. It's the largest independent film festival in the U.S., and it started out as something very small and niche for the low-budget films to pick up distribution from production companies, such as Miramax, New Line Cinema, and it's grown into something so much bigger. Sundance is kind of like, it's notorious for Kevin Smith, and Clerks, like, being shown there, and then it gets pick up distribution, for whoever it was. It was either Miramax or New Line that picked it up. But and now that it's grown as much as it has, it's come to the chagrin of those like who loved the original concept, because like in 2009, there's a film that's a documentary called Official Rejection. And it basically documents the experience of small filmmakers that are trying to get into various film festivals in the late 2000s, including Sundance. And the film contains several arguments that Sundance has become now, it went from being this independent, low budget, like new up-and-comer startup thing, and now it's being dominated by large studios, sponsoring corporations. It's gone Hollywood, if you will, and they've even moved it to Colorado now, and like they're trying to make it more of a tourist thing.
Yeah, it could have been
to America to inshitify.
Yes,
the film festival.
We were really close to having that in our backyard too. Cincinnati was one of the last cities.
I would have.
Oh, that's right.
I would have loved.
That would have been baller.
Yes. But a contrast in this documentary was made between, the 1990s and the late 2000s, in which basically they're saying, and for example, Kevin Smith even says in Clerks, or talks about it in the film, that, Clerks when it was picked up, would not, if that movie was made in the late 2000s while these people are trying to get their movies into the film festivals, it probably would not have been picked up at this time, because now it's more of a thing. Like, we're talking about at this time when this documentary's come out, the biggest movie of Sundance is a big budget movie that stars Ashton Kutcher called The Butterfly Effect, which is an amazing movie, but you can't necessarily compare Clerks to Butterfly Effect. Like, it's not fair.
Yeah,
right?
much different kind of, like, the background to the lead up to that movie getting made is a much different thing than what Clerks is experienced.
Right. Yeah, and Smith says, like, you know, if Clerks had been made in the 2000s, it would not have been accepted for Sundance. And so you never would have had Clerks, which means you would have never had everything else that we have that comes out, like Jay and Silent Bob, Clerks 2, and all of those things, right? So while it's definitely grown into a monster of its own that supersedes the original intent, Sundance is still, like I said, my favorite film festival because of, I just think that movies that typically do well at Sundance are movies that I really enjoy. And Wind River, again, is one of those ones that, like, stands out to me every time. I love it.
Well, and I still, like, I understand that it has become more of a studio influenced festival. Like, they're definitely, but I think I still think you get, you know, because I thought this was the case and I verified it to make sure here. Like, Jane Schoenbrun, I don't know how to say their name, but they started as, like, their first film, We're All Going to the World's Fair, it was a Sundance premiere, and now they're like you know, they did the I saw the TV Glow, and they've got a slasher coming out this year that's supposed to be, you know, it's getting rave reviews, and so, like, you still have those stories. Like, that first movie they did, We're All Going to World's Fair, was like made for like $20,000, you know, so you still get some
yeah.
You know, cases where it can launch careers, you know, is what I'm trying to say.
I don't know if Obsession was selected for Sundance this year, but I know it grew a lot of traction at the Toronto International Film Festival. That was like one of the movies that when people came out of TIFF, they talked about Obsession.
Yeah, it premiered at TIFF, it looked like, yep. So, yeah, and they do, and that's like that, like, so a lot of these festivals, and I bet probably what Jane Schoenbrun's, it was probably, Sundance probably has an equivalent of, like, where they put their horror or their kind of more genre type movies, you know, so you probably have to be in that space to kind of benefit from this as much. But right now it's just a good time to be working in that space, you know, as an independent person. Like, there's an appetite for all that stuff.
Well, and so that was like the quickest rundown that I could give you. I know it was still kind of long-winded, but I did my best. There's so much more information that I skimmed over, and I just wanted to highlight a quick few things about it. But I just wanted to, like, get your guys' thoughts on film festivals and, like, to me, how much more prevalent they seem to be in today's, like, you know, era versus what they were then. Like, I feel like, I mean, obviously we were younger, Josh, but even till we got to about college, you'd only hear a little bit about this film did really good. It's an independent movie, you know, that, like, Hard Candy, right, was I think another Sundance movie, and like,
talking about Elliot Page, another Elliot Page movie. That was,
but
I remember watching that, and I bought it at a dollar store. You know, it was one of those things you know, when the dollar store used to sell DVDs, Dollar General to be specific, and it was it had, like, on the cover of the DVD, like, Sundance, you know, film festival and whatnot, and it is a badge of, still I would say, a badge of honor or recognition. If I see a movie like on a shelf, or if I'm scrolling through my stream services, and I see a movie that I've never heard of or seen before, I've maybe heard one person mention, and then I see Sundance or TIFF or Cannes, like, on the thing, like what they do with the Oscars when the Oscar awards, and they put them all on the streaming stuff, like, that is going to incite me to watch them now and makes me want to watch them. And I just think that, like, back then, unless you were a diehard critic that was Roger Ebert writing this stuff down, most people weren't hype about these films unless they were nominated for Oscars and things like that. And I think now we have this, like, bro movie culture where, like, people want to know what movies got nominated for TIFF this year, what movies got nominated for Cannes, and, like, try to predict and project, like, this movie did so good at Cannes, I think it's going to get best makeup and effects at the Oscars. It's got to at least be nominated. You know what I mean? And so I don't know. I just kind of wanted your all's thoughts on it as well, and how while we think Hollywood is somewhat in, like, a bad place creatively, and they're just throwing money at bullshit all the time and everything else,
it's weird because the there's still great art that's being made, and these festivals are pushing that out and helping, the real film of it all. You know what I mean? And not throwing $300 million budgets and all that stuff at it.
I think it would be so fun to go to a film festival.
Yes.
I would love to have that experience.
You're gonna go hang out with the Mormons next year? We can go to Utah, Colorado, whatever.
Get us a sponsor, and they can pay for the trip to Colorado.
Yeah,
we do have the 12 Lines Film Festival here in Lexington. It'll be having its third iteration or fourth iteration this fall, and it's a very small thing. Obviously, it's nothing. It's not anywhere close to the level of these things we're talking about that everybody is sort of aware of if you really, really follow movie culture. I do think it's interesting to think about, like, certainly my awareness of all this stuff is probably all three of us is way higher than the average person, just by the nature of, like, we're into movies. But I do think, would that have been the case, like, say, if I'd been 35 20 years ago,
I don't think you would know as much about those.
I wouldn't, because I might think I know, but I would only know what I was able to access via, like, reading Ebert or reading.
I was going to say, there wouldn't be nearly the prevalence of people talking about these festivals to even.
Yeah, and some of these festivals now, okay, if you can't, I don't know if Cannes does it. There was at least one of them, and it may have been Cannes, that allows you to digitally, like, be present. In the sense that, like, you may not be able to attend the festival, but you can screen the movies as the festival at your home or stream it somehow.
Which is pretty cool.
It's awesome.
Like, I kind of almost, part of me thinks, like, well, if you can't go, then you can't go.
Part of that's the theater experience and traveling and doing the carpets and the, the presentation and being there for the premiere of something is part of it, right? Like, would be cool.
It's very elitist of me to take that position, but I kind of... As someone who could potentially,
I was gonna say, you sold newspapers, man. Like, so.
When you were started talking about this, it made me think of, again, I'm going to talk about Tropic Thunder, but when they're doing the fake movies in the beginning, and when Robert Downey Jr.'s character Kirk Lazarus stars in Satan's Alley, the winner of the Beijing Film Festival's coveted Crying Monkey Award.
Yes,
and it's such a spot on parody, because I feel like that was 2008, but prior to that, I feel like you would see these accolades on the DVD boxes, like you said, but you don't really know a whole lot about what that is. It's just like, oh, it could be like being in the who's who of American high school students.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah, I won the Australian silver kangaroo for best documentary.
Just like,
okay, cool.
Does this really mean anything? Or just pay for...
Yeah, you're looking at a movie like, this won the Golden Bear. I guess that's cool. That must be good, right?
Yeah.
It's not a brown bear.
They wouldn't Germany just wouldn't give the Golden Bear to any old ass movie.
Bear.
It's not the brown bear.
It's not the brown bear. It's not the shit bear.
They're saving that for Brian Helgeland.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Time to answer the question that we've been waiting 2 hours to ask. 25 years later, Christopher Nolan's Memento. Does this movie matter?
I mean, yeah.
Cut and dry.
I don't think there's any question.
Josh?
What if I just said,
unless Josh wants to play devil's advocate here.
If he does, I'm calling Marilee right now.
What if I said no and then waxed poetically for a while and chopped it up in different, chopped up my answer in different reverse order, reverse chronologically. Yes, it matters. I do think it like I said earlier, it sort of does in one movie sort of tell you everything you need to know about Christopher Nolan as a director, except the one thing it doesn't do is it is not obviously like the thing that I've noticed watching his movies, a lot of his movies this week in the lead up to this recording. I guess I just hadn't. I was aware of this because I'm obviously aware of these movies, but since starting with Batman, but really starting with Inception, all of his movies are just like these big, grand things. And Batman Begins is where that starts, but it's kind of still playing in the, it's pretty confined for that kind of movie still. And the Prestige kind of too, but it's starting to inch that way on a much smaller budget. And I would like to see him get back to this kind of stuff.
The smaller budget stuff.
After the Odyssey, I would love to see him get back into more of like the mid-budget, just to do this kind of, and maybe he's just he's doing what he wants, obviously, but it's cool that there's somebody who's out there doing that stuff and doing it practically and doing it, really going on location and making movies the way that we all want them to be made. But so it's cool. I'm glad he's into that too.
Tell him, Tom Holland.
But I think he's I don't know that he's an exceptional writer, but I think he is a really good writer. And even if you, like I mentioned to you guys, I quibble somewhat with how he writes, and because I do think a lot of it's more like plot. Like he writes so much exposition into a lot of his writing, like that it's like it's almost too much. But it's still, like Allison mentioned earlier, most of the time you're watching him do something be told in a way that you've never seen before. I think pretty much all of his movies are like that in a way, and this is really ground floor. It's his second movie, but it's really the first movie that anybody is aware of, and it really, outside of that big grand scale stuff, you're seeing pretty much the entire Nolan oeuvre in one movie with this movie, and I think that's pretty cool, honestly. And I think it's also like, it might be, of the movies I've seen, I've not seen all of his movies, but after The Dark Knight, it might be his second best movie, third
Interstellar.
best. I've not seen Interstellar, but it's in contention. It's in contention. Like for and that's pretty impressive to do on a small budget. This his first studio movie isn't. Insomnia is his first studio movie. 2 years later, and it's just impressive that he was able to.
Which Insomnia is really good. Like
and it's
I watched it again the other night, and I was like, man, I forgot how much I liked this movie.
I haven't seen it.
It is by far his most straightforward
2002 or whenever it
movie.
came
Yes,
out.
it is a streamlined.
It's a classic thriller,
movie.
like really how it's structured, and there's no real mystery to it. Really, it's really well done. It's just really, it's a well done thriller.
It's almost like it feels like if Michael Mann had made it, it would be the same. You know what I mean? Like it's got that type of vibe to it. So go ahead, Allison.
Obviously this movie's important because it essentially launches his career. But in thinking about how many directors can put butts in seats, regardless of what the movie's
He puts
about.
butts in seats, absolutely.
I mean,
and that matters.
People just assume, oh, Christopher Nolan did this, I'm going to go see it, regardless
It's him and James Cameron, probably. Right?
James Cameron, Tarantino.
Ridley Scott.
Like Tarantino stuff. I don't know.
No.
I don't know that, like, the average person, I'm thinking about, like, again, like,
okay, fair.
my friends who aren't super into movies, maybe not know as much about, like, Ridley
I think Ridley
Scott.
Scott's
You think of, like,
promise.
Spielberg.
Spielberg,
James
I feel like
Cameron.
is one of those. Ridley Scott's probably too. He's probably made too much stuff for that to be the case.
Okay. That's fair. No, that's fair.
It's not a knock on him. I just think
and
he's
even
probably...
like someone like Denis Villeneuve.
Is
it him or is it? He did Dune. People love Dune.
The movies he did before Dune were really good, though. Like,
I just rewatched Arrival last weekend.
I love Arrival.
This movie
is one of the best movies.
But I don't necessarily know that people see his name and think like, oh, I gotta see that. The average person.
I think they will once he moves on from Dune. Once he finishes Dune,
I think they see it and I think, man, I can't pronounce that guy's name. He must be good at making movies.
You mentioned putting people in butts and seats, and you mentioned James Cameron. It legitimately blows my mind that while he was doing Avatar, or also after doing Avatar, he decided, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go on tour with Billie Eilish and make a documentary.
Why not?
And, I'm sure it's probably pretty cool. I bet he does some different things that nobody else has done. And Taylor's probably like, why didn't my director do that for her stuff? But no, I agree with you guys. I don't want to beat a dead horse. Obviously, there's a reason why this was my number 2 pick. I think it is legitimately a contender for, if not the best, one of the top 3 to 5 best movies of 2001. I don't think you can really talk about the year 2001 and not talk about this movie because of how good it is and how I think important it is in a grand scale of things, as far as like independent young movies and creativity for a guy that you've never heard of and getting a performance like you got out of Guy Pearce and all the different things and just yes, okay, it matters.
Well,
so,
and just the economic, because it feels, he does do a good job, even though the scale isn't big. He does do a good job of making it feel bigger than it is through the structure. Because you're really only looking at a movie that has really four characters. People? Like, it's pretty baller. Like,
yeah, it's, and I mean,
maybe
you're
3
either,
locations.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're in the bar, you're in the abandoned building, you're in the hotel room, and
just her house.
Her house and the
flashback stuff. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much it. So.
And some of those sets are certainly the same sets, I would have guessed.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's great. Josh, going back to what you said, one of the other things about Nolan that I do appreciate and what I loved, what I think set part of his Batman movies apart, was that he decided, I'm going to film using full-fledged IMAX cameras. Like, that we're, you know what I mean? And he has an affinity for shooting on these heavy, huge, hard to deal with cameras, you know, and make great movies out of it. Like you though, Josh, I would love to see him with like a $15, $20 million, $40 million budget and shoot on 35 millimeter. Like, do that.
Think about
that would be cool.
If we could get like, so what Odyssey probably cost $200 million, $300 million, probably. Something like that. I mean, think like if you could get 7 Nolan thrillers or whatever for the cost of that, price. Like that'd be. I don't know if I would take that trade because I've been not seeing the Odyssey. I'm sure it'll be incredible to watch. I don't know if I'd take the trade. I would like to think I would, but
okay. So this is what you do. You do what they say. Like you make one huge big blockbuster, one for you, one for them thing.
And it seemed like that's what he was doing there a little bit, because I think The Prestige, even though it's a studio movie,
it's for him.
It's definitely, it's a lower budget. Like it's like $40 million or something.
Prestige. And
I think he was sort of doing that there for a second while he was doing the Batman movies, and then he's just gotten in this. I think like the Odyssey is his for him, Like,
yeah, I think so too.
Which is cool. Like, it's cool that he's that invested into it. That's what I like about him the most. I think is even if you don't vibe with his,
he makes movies he's passionate about, and you can tell he's a labor of love.
It shows on the screen too. Like even if you don't like what you're watching, there is no doubt about what you're watching that it was made by a person that really gave a shit, and it was not for a lack of trying and care that you didn't like it.
Right.
Josh, I really want you to watch Tenet and come back and give your thoughts, but you might need to watch it with the captions on.
Oh, I did that with every one of these movies. I was reading.
Some of the sound mixing in Tenet is because they're wearing masks a lot of the time, and yeah.
Nolan likes his face coverings.
Oh, what is it?
You says?
I was born in the dark.
I didn't see the light till I was nearly a man. You think darkness is your friend? Okay. All right. Let's get to it. So, if you guys are trying to figure out where you are and what you've been doing for the last 2+ hours, or if you forgot entirely what movie we were talking about, press rewind and start all over.
Or press fast forward if I put this all in.
Yeah, chop it up. For those of you who don't suffer from Lenny's condition, our show notes are in the description, along with links to all of our online hangouts. Please leave reviews on your favorite podcast app and like us on YouTube. Tune in next week. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, watch this movie.
Yeah, that should go without saying. Watch this movie.
Yeah. Tune in next week as we talk about another film about a guy who has a weird brain condition, right, Allison?
No.
Let's
I'm gonna have some thoughts with a capital T.
Oh, Allison is
next
bringing
week.
thoughts.
I've already
wife should
started on my
probably know
notes. I
about
said
this.
it.
Like THOT thoughts, like the thoughts I used to chase after in college. Them hoes over there.
That's right, guys. Next week we're gonna talk about Shallow Hal.
Yeah, I can't wait
A
for
movie-
Allison to roast this.
That
You drafted and you hate it more than anything.
No, I drafted it so I could shit all over it. I am ready. Ready.
I drafted movies I love, and Allison's like, I can't wait to shit on this movie.
This movie, it should have never been made. I don't know how it made it into production, but well, actually, I do. But
It was
anyway,
a different
yeah,
time.
Shallow Hal.
Is it a Weinstein movie? Please tell
if
me
you
it's
like
a
the-
Weinstein movie.
Isn't everything a Weinstein movie? Sarah?
Oh,
Yeah, don't think I didn't catch you mentioning Miramax earlier, Slate.
Nah, yeah.
But you can't without Sundance. You have
I mean, yeah. It's, so,
If you're a fan of Shallow Hal, you may maybe not tune in next week, or maybe do, and
oh, it's gonna be a fun conversation.
comment and tell me I'm a stupid whore or whatever people do on the internet. All engagement's good engagement.
Go lose some weight, you fat bitch. No, I'm just kidding.
Shut up, you stupid woke whore.
Yeah.
Like,
This got
I'm trying-
dark.
Lord
know.
have mercy. All right. Well, that wraps up Memento, guys. Thanks again for listening, everybody. And remember, always get a receipt.
Smell you.
what's that smell, Josh?
Uh,
I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
It's
I think my. brain-
check your pocket. That smells the burnt Polaroid in your pocket.
Oh my god.